Okay, so what we're going to start off with today is we're going to get into talking about area of sectors, but I want to do a little thing here to show you first. Okay, how do you find the area of a circle? Okay, area of a circle is pi r squared. We talked about it a little bit this year, not a whole lot, but area of a circle equals pi r squared. And I know you've seen that in the past. Have you ever wondered where that formula comes from? Probably not, but you're going to find out where this comes from today, okay? So what I had you to do was just to shade in every other slice, basically to make it look kind of like a candy cane like this, okay? So what I want you to do now is I want you to cut out the circle like this. We're eventually going to cut the slices out, but to start off, I just want you to cut the slices like this. Okay, so what we're going to do, for me to kind of show you where the formula comes from, is we're going to take it from this shape of a circle, and we're going to change it into another shape. Okay? So we're going to cut it up, and it's going to like transform into a different shape. So what I want you to do is we're going to cut this into quarters. And that's what these numbers are about right here. As you can see, there's a number 1, okay? And there's a number 1 right here. So that's all you're going to do first is go ahead and cut along these two lines right here, the first number 1. So cut all the way along that line right there, and then cut all the way along this line right here. You're just cutting it into quarters. Okay? Go ahead and cut it along that line, those 2 lines. Cut it there, cut it there. So you're going to end up having 4 pieces. Cut it in half and cut those halves in half. Okay, and so just to make it easier for this to work better, I went ahead and just made these and glued them down. But this is what I want you to do is to take yours and line them up like this. Okay. Now, like I said, what we're doing is we are transforming this circle into another shape. Can you tell what shape maybe we're headed towards? Okay. Headed toward... All right, I heard one that sounded good. I hear some people laughing. So what's the other one that you said? Okay, I heard rectangle, square. What's the other one? Sphere. Okay, sphere, parallelogram. Okay, those are some good answers. All right. And one of those is pretty much the correct answer. All right? So, well, I guess 2 of those for that matter are. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take each one of these pieces and cut that in half. That's what the number 2 is. So you're going to cut along the line number 2s. So just cut along line number 2 on all of these. Okay, so what shape do you think we're headed towards now? Okay, yes, and that is correct. We are headed towards a rectangle. Now, I want you to notice a couple of things here. What's happening? First of all, over here on this edge, let me go back to this one right here. Notice how this angle is like this, okay? It's maybe like a 45-degree angle or something like this, okay? And then if you notice on this one, notice how it's not like that. It's getting closer to being, straight up and down. And as we go more and more, you'll see that that's what's happening. Also, what I want you to notice, the second thing is notice here how big of a bump this is, how big of a curve you have right here. And notice right here, there's still a curve, but notice it's getting less and less, all right? So what's happening as we go along, this is straightening out, and this is becoming more and more straight up and down, more and more vertical, okay? So obviously the last thing let's do, let's go ahead and cut along those last lines, the line number 3. Okay, so as you notice here, again, what's happened is notice as we cut it this next time, notice how much flatter, even just with this number of cuts, notice how much flatter this side is becoming and how much closer and closer to being straight up and down that this is. Okay, now, how many pieces do we have right here? How many individual pieces are there?
16.
There's 16. Okay, bless you. So if we were to cut these in half and cut them into 30 seconds, okay, and then cut that in half, make 64s, and then cut that in half to 128s, and just keep going on and on and on, what's going to happen is as you do that an infinite number of times, there will no longer be any bumps here at all. This will be completely flat. And as you do that to infinity, this will no longer have any angle like this. It'll be completely straight up and down, be completely vertical. And so as you said a second ago, yes, this is headed towards a rectangle, all right? Let me try to get this in a better shape here. So what we're doing is we are converting that circle into a rectangle. And of course, all right. Now, let's think about, well, first of all, we've talked about this. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Yeah, it's just length times width, right? So let's talk about finding the area of this rectangle that was originally a circle. So let's talk about its length and width. Let's start off with its width right here. So from here to here, if you reconstruct this circle in your mind, so like put all the pieces back together, from here to here, what was that of the circle?
Diameter.
It's the radius, because if you think about it, what it is this was from the edge of the circle to the middle of the circle. That's where this point is right here. So what is it from the edge of a circle to the middle of the circle? That's the radius. So the width of our rectangle was the radius of the circle. Right? Okay. Now let's think about the length of it. So the length of the rectangle right here. Okay. What was this on the circle? It was the outside of the circle, right? So what is that whenever we're talking about going around the circle? What do we call that? It's circumference. And on this paper right here, I reminded you what the circumference formula is 2 pi r. Right? Now, so the circumference is 2 pi r. Is this up here, is this length the whole circumference of the circle? It's half of it, right? Because the other half is down here. So the length of it right here is just half of the circumference. So what happens if I were to cut the circumference in half? What's going to happen right there? Those are going to cancel the 1, and what's that going to leave? Is going to be pi r. So the length of the rectangle is pi r. Okay, because it's half of the circumference. Half of 2 pi r is just 1 pi r. This is half of the circumference because it's half of the outside of the circle. So that's how long the rectangle is going to be. The length is going to be half of the circumference. The width is going to be just the length of the radius. Now, just a second ago, what did we say? How do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times width. So if I do this length times this width, okay, if I do pi r times r, what is pi r times r? R times r is r squared. Area of a circle is pi r squared right there. Okay? So that's just showing you that's where the area formula of a circle comes from. That's how we get that. All right.